Wait for it. Good morning. Paramita. Welcome to this week's Dharma Talk here at beautiful Bali Rica in beautiful Costa Rica. Jeff has returned and he's giving a talk this morning. And it's on mindfulness, I think, and meditation. So let's begin with just 3 minutes of silence after I take you through a little bit. When I tell Sharon she's going to ring the bell, and then we'll have 3 minutes of silence to just relax. First of all, however, everybody here already is seated in a comfortable, stable position. Hope you are at home too, those who are on the internet. And I want you to shake a little bit, get comfortable. Make sure you're really where you can hold stillness for the next 5 minutes or so. Not move. Okay? Now, close your eyes gently, no squinting. Put your hands in your lap. When I say go, I want you to take 2 long, slow, deep breaths. If you wish, on the in-breath, which is through the nostrils, the out-breath is through your mouth or nostrils. As you breathe in, you can say to yourself, relax. As you exhale, you can say, let go. After you take your second long, deep breath, let your breath return to natural breathing and give a great big yawn. And when that happens, Sharon is going to ding and we'll have 3 minutes of silence. Everybody got it? Okay, it's not too hard. All right, let's go. Breathe in. Pause. Breathe out. Nobody's looking. Give a yawn. you, Sharon. Welcome home, Jeff. Take it away.
Thank you. You all have been talking about the Paramitas, which are 6 or 9, right?
6 or 8 or 10.
6 or 8 or 10, depending on what
How you
evolution of how you count. So this is number 5, and it's about concentration, about meditation, and all of this is under the umbrella of mindfulness. I'm going to do a little bit of our new kind of format of doing this by presenting for a little bit, and then we'll have some questions, and then present a little bit more, and we'll have some questions. Twice we'll do that. We'll do a couple of things of that because it seems to fit with the material today. So about meditation, concentration, mindfulness. The 5th Paramita. I want to start with a story, and my best stories are about me.
You're a funny guy.
I like to work in treatment as a therapist because you could tell your own stories back. If you worked in a clinic, you were not supposed to tell your story. It was just the client's story. So I liked working in treatment where it was a dialogue back and forth. Concentration. I've been a really kind of odd bird through my whole life about concentration, especially in spiritual areas. I was the kid who wanted to go to church. I was a kid who listened to every word that was said and then debated with the pastor at the back door. In the confirmation class, I was odd, I have to say. Everybody else was just trying to get through it, and I was interested. Yeah, I had a girlfriend in the days when I had girlfriends, and I worked at music at a church in my college years for a friend of mine's father who was the pastor, and I had a girlfriend who came to one of the services, and it was a very serious sermon that the father of my friend gave, and my girlfriend you didn't have texting in those days, but she was like writing me notes about other stuff. I was so irritated that actually by the time I got done, I just walked out. I had to do the closing song. I didn't even do it. I just walked out and went and sat in my car in the parking lot. I was so irritated that she had broken my concentration. I would sit forward in the church services like this.
I'm glad I didn't know you then.
Yeah, I know. I was super intense about it, and very odd because everybody else was a little bit more casual about it. So this is a topic that comes naturally to me. Even
now I got scared.
I don't know why, because I actually come from fairly scattered people, and I can be scattered, but when there's something spiritual, I will hone right in, and I think that's one of the reasons why at the Dharma group this was so interesting to me, and I could really focus. Even in the early stages of learning how to do this meditation, which I had never done before, there was a few distractions, but I quickly fell into the idea that there was nothing else going on besides my meditation. Even noises and stuff, all of a sudden it came easily to me. I have to tell you that that's odd. For most people, concentration takes a lot of effort. Meditation takes a lot of time to get to that spot. And I'm not patting myself on the back. I'm really actually calling myself odd in those ways because it seems to me that I'm not always like other people in this. I guess it's just how it is.
Just ask me. I'll tell you.
But so the idea that concentration, the act or the commitment to meditating and being mindful are all across spectrums. I'm going to do some quotes later on, and it's super interesting that almost all the quotes come from actors about concentration, about going to a zone. And so there are a lot of quotes. I'm not going to quote most of the actors, but they have to find this spot where the rest of the world stops, where they stop, where their self is not there anymore, and they become something else. Have you had these kind of experiences where all of a sudden you are, as the Buddhists say, you become one with everything? You lose yourself, you lose your evaluation of things, you lose your judgments about things, you lose positivity, negatives, and over time, you lose yourself, your ego, your personality, the way that you've operated, however it is in the world. So it's a really good topic, and it's a really challenging one. And I want to start the topic, which is the fifth Paramita, which are the fifth perfection. These Paramitas are all meant to liberate people in their actions, to be liberated and to be active. A life of mindfulness. The idea of the Paramitas is that you're crossing from the shore of suffering and confusion to the shore of freedom and enlightenment.
Commonly used illustration, crossing the river to the other side. And that's what the word paramita actually means, is a crossover or a going beyond. It's a transcendent word.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
And so that the Buddha had a direct quote about this. Do not wait for the other shore to come to you. If you want to cross to the other shore, the shore of security, well-being, no fear, and no anger, you will have to swim or paddle. You'll have to make an effort. In my theology background in the Christian world, there's a similar Bible verse. Work out your salvation. A free gift, but work at it. Interestingly, very similar kind of idea, and that it actually takes effort to be mindful, to move from confusion, from suffering, into a world of concentration, mediation, no fear, no anger, security, well-being.
Can I add something?
Yeah, of course.
When it gets to right effort in the Eightfold Path, one of the lessons that the Buddhists teach is that this is joyful effort. This is not grim effort. If you have to force anything, effort should be what the Chinese call wu wei, effortless effort. In other words, when you can focus, you can let go into the activity. If it's playing tennis or whatever you're doing, if you're totally focused, it can become a very joyful thing. If you start to tense and force it, then it becomes an unpleasant effort, and you probably will fail. That's the teaching on that.
We have illustrated that in other Dharma talks by saying, if you're swimming upstream, you're working too hard.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're just floating willy-nilly downstream, there's some rocks that you're going to hit. But to let go and let be and skillfully go downstream, now you've done the effortless effort. Yes?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
That's when the dancer becomes part of it. The dance and the dancer are one.
Yeah.
The tennis player and the game are one. It's being in the zone is actually what we call it now.
I had you're bringing up all kinds of illustrations. I'm a piano player, and there was a time when I played at a church, and I was a little bit out of practice, and I played a piece that I knew by heart for some kind of part of the service. And a lady came up to me afterwards, and she said, "I'd like to give you a compliment." I said, "Okay," and she said, "You and the piano were one thing." And I said, I messed up in the second section.
Mm-hmm. Sounds like me. I was messing up.
Yeah, I'm not quite as practiced. I gave all these excuses, and the lady goes, "Let me start over." And I was like, "Oh," and then she said, "I don't want you to talk. Listen, absorb what I have to say. You and the piano were one thing."
That's what you have.
Smart lady.
Maybe the song was
Beautiful. It taught me to always accept compliments. When they give it to you, let it absorb. I don't even know who the lady is, but she taught me the lesson and those things. But that kind of experience is what people are looking for in the intimacy of families, of romantic relationships, of good work, of gardening, of being one with living in Costa Rica. All of those things, to lose yourself in it is to actually find something quite valuable. In the teachings about this, there are two kind of aspects, two kind of camps of thinking about this, as is in much of Buddhist teaching, about concentration, about meditation. There's a group of thinking which is kind of bachelor's level thinking, and that is the samatha. Is that how you would say it? Samatha. Okay. It looks like Samantha to me. Samatha. And this is that when you do the concentration, you concentrate in the present moment, in the here and now, only by using your breath. It's not about where you've been. It's not about where you're going. It's about where you are currently. That kind of goal is full concentration, and it's the most basic, common teaching of practice in Buddhism.
And of course, you can go on from that to anything, any object on which you could give your full attention and concentrate and hold the focus.
Yes. The methods that are often used in this area are focusing on breath, on your steps if you're doing a walking meditation, body scans where you're concentrating on different areas of your body and releasing the tension, especially, or just anything about being in the present moment only. We've talked a lot in the last 6 months here about the danger of the storylines, the danger of what we tell about our experience, that takes us away from this kind of concentration, mindfulness, meditation. I'm gonna do quite a detailed thing at the end about that, but that when we tell stories about the past, and I do tell stories about the past. Nothing necessarily wrong with that. However, if that's where our energy goes, we're not living mindfully in the present. And so, therefore, it takes this effort of going across to the other shore to stay present, and it's a trick. How many times when you try to stay present exactly that all I have is this moment, are you quickly caught thinking about other things? Well, while I was doing my concentration at church, Other people were thinking about that they were hungry and going to brunch afterwards, which was a usual Sunday morning thing, or they were thinking about their to-do list, or they're thinking about, why is my daughter being so irritating here next to me, and I wish she would, all that stuff. And that stuff would go away because somehow I had the ability, when it came to spiritual things, to just zero in and to stop with it. I'm sorry. Say what you were going to say.
No, nothing. I just wanted to say this last weekend, I don't know, most of you are not race trackers, but the Kentucky Derby had a race, had a jockey who is the next big thing. I will tell you, he rode a race that was the absolutely perfect example of relaxed absorption. Now, it's a mile and a quarter race, and it takes what, a minute and 20 seconds or whatever it is. A little more than that. That's 3/4. But anyhow, he had at least, I got out my eyeball and I watched that race at least 5 times because I had not seen anything like that since Willie Shoemaker. He was totally relaxed. His horse was totally relaxed. And they had 5 opportunities to lose that race. And he was so focused that he didn't take any opportunity to lose. He won that race every step of the way. And at the last minute, at the longest odds ever in a Derby, 80-1, he slipped through and he had to go 2 horses here. He had to go here, barely squeak through, come through, dodge in, not a falter anywhere. He and the horse were one. He and the race were one. And it was, as I say, total absorption in what he was doing, and they were working together so beautifully. If you want to see a really good example of that, pull up last week's
Awesome.
Kentucky Derby. Amazing performance. Anyway,
It's a good illustration.
I get excited on horseback.
Yeah, I know you do. It's good. We
That's
all
my-
we all have our illustration.
Yeah, that was. But this one is one you can see with your naked eye and watch this guy pull off a ride. Whoa, amazing. Go ahead. Sorry.
The other aspect, not the samadhi aspect of living just in the present moment and the exercises by which you regularly can do that. The other one is vipassana, which there are vipassana retreats, and this is like
Insight.
the master's level course.
It's a different course. The two work together. Shamatha is concentration.
Yes.
Okay, and Vipassana is insight.
Yes.
So one is not more or better than the other.
Okay.
They work together.
However, you don't get to get a master's degree unless you earn a bachelor's degree first. So that in that way they all work together. Okay.
Not necessarily.
Okay.
I disagree.
We'll talk about it at lunch.
Okay.
The Vipassana idea is after you calm your mind, you do the work of overcoming external and internal distractions. The mind studies the mind. Ruthie quotes the lyrics often. I'm just checking in to the
I just dropped in to see what condition my condition was in.
That's this idea.
Yeah.
And that's the deepening experience of us finding our true Buddha nature, the pure light that is within us. And this idea of thinking, working together with the samadhi idea, is that we liberate the mind. We liberate our mind from the detours that are off of the main path. You calm the mind, you overcome the external and internal distractions. Interestingly, it's both of those, isn't it? Things out here, things in here, and our stories that we tell about all of those, all distractions, all detours to living mindfully in the present moment. This leads you to an idea called the empty mind, the open mind, the beginner's mind, all concepts in the Buddhist idea. And here's what I saw as the promise. The more you meditate on the mind, the more you will experience your mind as bright, clear, spacious, and still. That means that you have to get to that calm mind where there's no external distractions, no internal distractions. And the more you meditate on that, the more you do this practice, the more you experience it as bright, clear, spacious, and still. Doesn't matter what's happening out in the world for that moment. Doesn't matter what's happening internally to you at that moment. You are there for the experience of how to get your mind to be empty. It sounds cleansing, doesn't it? This leads you to mindfulness and enlightenment, the main road that all of Buddhist thought are trying to bring us to, away from the detours, away from the dead ends, away from the stories, to the main path of understanding that we are in charge of our mind. Not others, not our history, not our distractions, but that. One more set of things as this relates to mindfulness. Mindfulness, being fully alive, awake in the current moment, fits beautifully with this. It's a kind of non-elaborate, non-judgmental, present-centered concentration in which each thought, feeling, or sensation that arises in your attention is acknowledged, accepted, and released. You want me to say that again? It's a big phrase. It is a big phrase. The link between concentration, meditation, and mindfulness is that mindfulness is non-elaborate, non-judgmental, a present-centered concentration in which every thought, feeling, or sensation that arises in your attention is acknowledged, accepted, and released.
The release is action.
The release is the action.
Okay. And what we're saying is, let's take this jockey. He didn't get to do that by not focusing. That's total concentration. And the way you get to that is practice, practice, practice.
Of course.
Effort, effort, effort. And then comes payoff there.
It does.
And that's when you act.
Yes. For me to get to the point of playing that classical piece, so I was one with the piano.
You did a lot of
For
scales.
14 years of lessons.
Yeah.
Of course, my dad wouldn't let me stop. There were times I wanted to stop, and he was smart enough to say, no, sorry, go to the piano, then you can go play with your friends.
Yeah. Yeah.
So meditation, mindfulness, concentration is the preeminent opportunity to practice this kind of mindfulness. The mind is steadied, quieted, concentrated, and leads you to liberation and insights that you did not have before. New territory. When you empty the mind, there is room in your mind for new territory, not just plugged up with the old stuff.
The interesting thing I found is that if you really focus on that narrow focus, it takes you into an expansion.
Mm-hmm.
So that you start off being able to keep a focus. And then what happens is all of a sudden the focus is so good that everything comes to you. So instead of reaching for something outside, it's interesting the way the perception shifts in meditation.
And that's part of the maturing of your process. You start small, and it naturally grows. It's true in all areas of life.
You feel like you're narrowing.
It does,
But
because
then all of a
you're
sudden
taking
way,
the distractions
you've
away.
exploded open. Yeah,
Yeah, absolutely.
What I'm trying to say.
So I'm going to stop there. There's some esoteric stuff in what I just said. Thoughts, additions, questions.
Oh shoot! I forgot to do that. I'm sorry.
Thoughts, ideas, questions. As I'm talking. Yeah.
I can't find it. Jeff.
Hold on a second.
Throw it out the back. I'm sorry. I always remember, and this time I didn't.
They really want you.
Well,
I don't know where it is.
I think it's in this. Good. Thank you, whoever you were. I am so sorry, everybody. I'm sorry, Jeff.
It's okay.
I always remember that, and I didn't this time.
That's okay. I didn't notice.
I was concentrating.
What? What phone? Yes, go ahead.
What the hell is it?
Yeah, I was just going to say, this spiritual tradition that is my foundation from a fairly young age is the Vedic tradition.
Is the what?
Vedic.
Okay.
Tradition.
Yeah.
And my teacher used to use a word that I didn't hear you use, but it's a very useful word.
Yeah.
It's called one-pointedness.
Yes.
And he
One-pointed
said
concentration.
there's two kinds of concentration.
That's samadhi.
One is making something happen through effort, which is exhausting. The other is allowing the mind to become one focus, which is also concentration. But it's again produces liberation.
Yes. Do you have an example of where that teaching, that idea, how it's worked for you? Because you've had that thought for a while.
Yeah, for a long time.
Yeah. It's part of your tradition.
Yeah, I can relate this to a story of a friend of mine when we were on a long course with the guru. He said that in meditation, he would always have some effort that he was aware of, and it was like a little tiny pinprick of pain in his head. And one day he just didn't show up. And there was a lady who was fully realized lady who was sort of taking care of him. She came to me and she said, well, Joe is having some problems with integration because he's finding that he's not who he thought he was. He's much bigger than that. And he's trying to integrate with his reality on the ground. He's having trouble walking and talking. And she said, what's happened is, she said, I worked with him so long with his meditation, that little point pain was something that was a resistance. He was trying to use it effort. She said, when he released that effort, then all this happened.
Yeah.
And she said, the next time I saw Joe, he was a little bit out of his gourd, but he said, meditation is supposed to be effortless. He said, but it never was. But what I found out was it's easy. It's really easy. They kept going on and on.
It's just a huge discovery because you're really trying so hard.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden you let go of that. Let go, let go, let go.
Yeah.
You know?
I think trying is an early part of the process, but it's not the destination. Good, thank you. That was really helpful. One-pointed.
One-pointed.
Got it.
That's the definition of samadhi. Concentration.
Somebody else? Comments, questions, thoughts?
Oh, there are all kinds of people over here. I know they have thoughts.
It's okay. Let them be if people come up with it.
I often need tools to get back to the here and now. As
Okay.
Jeff knows, I think too much.
She's an excellent analyst.
Okay.
And so one of the tricks I do is I just stop and listen,
Mhm.
and then from there I can get there.
Mm-hmm.
But the other thing that I found very interesting, and I don't mean this to be morbid, but Tara Brach was talking about a meditation led by Thich Nhat Hanh,
Mhm.
and it starts out with two people meeting each other, and it's you take the first breath and you say, I'm going to die, and you take the second breath and say, you're going to die, and the third breath is, this is the moment we have together.
Mhm. That's right.
And I just find that very useful.
Mm-hmm. That's a very practical tool, isn't it?
Yes.
Systematic. For an analyst that
For us thinkers.
There's nothing esoteric about that. That's concrete. Good. Should I go on?
I have a question.
Yeah.
When you're concentrating, are you actually thinking?
That's an excellent question.
Because I think I'm thinking about concentrating.
Well, you
Then you're
cannot
thinking.
ever stop
Then I'm
thinking.
Okay.
You never stop thinking.
Uh-huh.
You're simply channeling that thought, so that you're not noticing the thought so much. You're just pushing the energy. Is that
Uh-huh. It's a really tricky in the literature. I read a whole bunch of people talking about this week, and they were thinking about their thinking.
Mm-hmm.
So there's some thinking in there.
I think so.
But I think again it's focus, and then there somehow is, and we don't often in our group here go into this, where you end up with the empty mind, and so you join an empty space, the gap. You join that spot, and that's over time. Now you've crossed over to the other shore. You're not just on the bridge to the other shore. You've crossed over to the other shore.
Well, the Vedic tradition, which is what Buddhism came from, has a lot to say about that. Can you add to that? Whoever's there that does the Vedic tradition?
Oh yeah.
No, Taylor.
I
Yeah.
can't
Do
see
you
what
have
he
anything else to add to that? What are you asking him?
Well, about channeling your thought, and do you consider? I think it's just a matter of how you perceive it. Am I thinking about thinking, or am I just thinking? You can really get into the weeds with this stuff.
It is. It's very esoteric.
So,
My teacher used to make a point of saying, if the mind is creating thoughts to create a mood, that's a form of unreality. He said that's called mood making.
mm-hmm,
And he said mood making is just the mind talking to itself.
mm-hmm.
He said when the mind is still, then the experience is a real experience.
Got it. And it's present moment.
Right.
Yeah. Go ahead, Mark.
One of the things to add to what you were saying, that one of the things that I've learned is imagine yourself in a house and you're sitting in the living room and the TV is on, the radio is on, there's another TV in the family room, there's two radios up on the second floor, and then there's noise coming from outside, and you're sitting in this cacophony of sound of all of these different things coming in. And meditation is the point of turning each one off until you're finally sitting in the living room again. And when you're sitting in the living room, you're just observing your own personal thoughts at that time. You're not reacting to all of the other distractions, to everything else. Rather sitting in the living room and just observing your own thoughts.
Nice. That's a real tangible.
That brings us back to the concentration issue again, because if someone tells you, don't imagine a pink elephant, You're
That's
going
all.
to imagine everything else.
Yeah.
So if you're sitting and you're saying, I'm not listening to that radio, you're actually listening to the radio.
What I'm
So
saying,
there's a delicate balance in
yeah,
it.
but I'm not saying I'm not listening to the radio.
Right.
I'm
I'm turning it off.
turning it
Exactly.
off.
Just wanted to make that
Yeah.
Yeah.
clarification. To turn it off, you don't focus on it.
Exactly.
You just turn it
You
off.
just
You just
it goes
sit
away.
and you allow it to go through.
Wow, this stuff is hard.
Not really.
I mean,
Just relax, let go.
Mm-hmm.
does it's the all the other teachings and all the other things you've shared with us. I'm like globbing on. Feel like I can immediately pick a pearl and assimilate it into my life. But this mindfulness stuff, and I'm not disparaging it,
No, I don't
No,
hear that.
everything starts with
but
awareness.
it's so.
Yep.
I don't have the step-by-step real instruction. Okay, 5 minutes you meditate, and if you can do this, then you're going to be able to be successful. And I guess it's the scientific
No.
side of me
That's not.
that I know that I'm not hearing any specific methodology, or it's more it has to be personalized because we're all so different. Of how you find your own mindfulness is what I'm hearing from you.
It's an umbrella category.
It's
It's
very specific
in all of
steps.
this. That's the umbrella. Is mindfulness. How to live fully alive in the
So-
present moment.
Okay, so my question would be, so it's not meditation. Mindfulness is actually
They're both.
you could be
There's
wide awake and
mindfulness
something's
meditation.
happening, and you could bring your mindfulness into what you're observing or how you're reacting.
It's circular.
Okay.
It's a circle, so it's not a line like you do this first and you get to this. It feeds each other. Almost everything in Buddhist thought circles around and circles back, and each thing feeds each thing.
So in your day, your goal is to stay in the present moment and have that mindfulness in all
Just be
of your
aware of what's
experiences.
going on around you.
Yes, yeah, and that a practice in and of itself is enough of a challenge.
Like if you're doing the dishes, are you just
Just
doing the dishes, or are you thinking about stuff?
My problem is my mind always has 20 things.
That's everybody's mind.
Yeah,
That's
that
called
was
a drunken monkey mind.
That's the purpose of the practice.
Thank
The
you.
purpose of the
Absolutely.
practice is
That's why
to
you're.
try to get away from that. So, like Lisa said, when you're doing the dishes, do the dishes. When you're taking a shower,
Just
take
take a
your
shower.
shower. When you're walking the dog, walk the dog. Don't think about balancing your checkbook when you're driving to the market. Don't
That's
think
right.
about
For God's sakes, don't talk on
It's
yourself.
what you're doing right now.
Yeah, exactly. That's the whole trick right there. He just gave it to you.
Wow.
And the meditation.
Where's Anthony?
Here, Anthony. The meditation has actually 3 simple steps. Breathing in, I know I am breathing in. This is step 1. Breathing out, I know I'm breathing out. Step 2, once you've established you know you're breathing, you feel it. It's automatic, so now you have to pay attention to it because otherwise it just happens. The second thing is breathing in and breathing out, I am aware of how I am breathing. Rapidly, shallowly, deeply, long, slow breath. How? So that I am, how I am. And the third step is breathing in, I calm my mind. Breathing out, I calm my body. That's the Buddhist meditation. I know I'm breathing, I know how I'm breathing, and as I breathe, I relax and let go. That's it. And every time your mind
And that's
wanders,
not complicated.
you just
What
bring
you
it
just
back.
said is not complicated.
Just doing the dishes is very fun.
That's good. That's why. That's
I
why
mean,
as
you
you
practice.
feel it, as you feel it being less
I got it.
complicated.
Thank you. That's what I was missing in
That's
all
why
this.
it's a
I think.
practice. It's hard.
Yeah.
That's the practice part.
Also, another thing I think is giving yourself permission to think about doing the checkbook or whatever.
Mhm.
So, you know, you can be mindful with that too. So you're walking your dog, and you need to do your checkbook when you get home. You can walk your dog, but also give yourself permission to think about the checkbook. Is that valid to say that? That's what I do. Instead of the monkey mind, and I'm like not mindfully
Oh, I'm so glad somebody
doing what
else
I'm doing, and there's something other than what I'm doing that is coming up or whatever. I acknowledge it and give myself permission. I'm going to think about this now.
You can change your mind, but
So
I think pure mindfulness is about if that were my circumstance, I'm walking the dog and I'm thinking about the checkbook and those things, I would take notice of the checkbook, and to be fully mindful of my walking the dog, I would put that in the drawer and know that when I was going to come home, I'm going to open that drawer. That would be raw mindfulness. The other sounds like there's a bit of distraction in it.
Well, not for me.
Okay.
I mean, I don't know how to say that. Maybe I need to work on it more to be completely walking the dog.
Yeah.
And whether or not we all have a lot of stuff going on, I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
But I can say that I mindfully give myself permission
you're doing right.
to consider whatever it is that's on my table.
Sure.
Sorry.
Yeah, we do. Last thing, and then we'll go on.
Sorry, just I'm going to go somewhere, so just re-whip here for a second. But imagine your most intense in your life, that one intense, intimate experience that you had, and in that moment, you were fully aware of your body. You were fully aware of your presence and fully aware of your mind, and I'll bet you weren't balancing your checkbook. That's what we're talking about. We're talking about being inspired to such a degree that the other stuff falls away. And the only way to have that experience is actually to move into it step by step by step by step, to experience, to know that it's possible, and expand it a little bit more, and to know that that is possible and expand it a little bit more until it becomes your focal point and going to it is much easier.
Mm-hmm. Great.
Good conversation.
You're all set now. We'll hear a report next week. Now, this week, you just get to do all that.
Relax.
You don't have to be perfect.
Just
at it.
relax.
But it's hard when you're raised in an environment of accomplishment, get this done,
It
do
is
this,
hard.
be successful,
It is.
multitasking, you can do it, you're a woman, you gotta do it harder, you gotta do it faster.
It's
like,
difficult.
I got that down, I figured it out. Is it fun? No. What do I like about Costa Rica? Sitting with my coffee and watching my
There you go.
Yeah, there you
There you
go.
go. That's
That's
it.
a form of your
That is
meditation.
my
Do
truth,
that
and I want
totally.
more of that, but I get my damn checkbook balance. I'll figure. But I understand. Thank you all.
Compassion.
One
Compassion
quick last
in
word,
yourself.
and then I'll turn it back over to you. This goes back to Diane, and it also applies to this. I also love Leonard Cohen, and he has a line about how hard it was for him to love a lot of things. And so he has a line that says that you have loved enough, now let me be the lover. And he's talking about, I swept the marble halls, I did what you did, I was all intense in religion, and I still wasn't quite there until he came below and told me, you have loved enough, now let me be the lover. You have thought enough, now let me be the thinker. You know, you've suffered enough, now let me suffer for you. Let go of it, it's letting go. Anyway. When you let go, it just takes it naturally.
This is the antidote to Western thinking. This is the antidote to Western thinking. What you just described is most of our training. And so this is the medicine to get out of that unhappiness, out of what they call the shore of suffering and confusion.
But what's concerning me a bit right now also, and that I've indoctrinated my children the same way.
Of course you
because
have.
I didn't know anything else.
Well, that's all right. We all did.
Well, then, so they have their own journey now, to take the beautiful things you gave them and to leave the rest. That's why we're grandparents. Take this, you don't like it, okay, I go away. It's okay. You can go on. All right, so I want to give you a couple more detailed things here. There's often talked about 4 steps about how you get the mental discipline to do this concentration. And there's 4 steps. One is about restraint. One is about abandonment. One is about cultivation. And the other is about preservation. It's very, very logical thinking by the Buddha and by the people who interpreted the Buddha afterwards. So the mental discipline of concentration requires 1, restraint of the senses and distractions. These are traps. So the restraint of those, that means they have to be put in their place if you're going to get to this level of concentration, mindfulness, and meditation. Second, the release and abandonment of negative mental states and the actions that have happened previously.
Say that again, please.
The release and abandonment of negative mental states and their actions that have happened in your history.
Yeah. Let it go.
This is, in many traditions, called forgiveness.
Mm-hmm.
In what's the term in AA where you amends?
Amen.
This is letting go. That was then. I don't live in that now. I'm going to release that. This is about half of my counseling. Is this step, the abandonment of that storyline.
And guilt and repenting aren't going to help.
No. It's the other side of the coin, is it not?
Yeah, we were kind of brought up as you were. Repent, and feel guilty. This is how you can learn to accept that you did something that you are guilty of. You did it, but you can let it go because you've moved beyond that now. If that makes any sense.
So the restraint of the senses and distractions. In other words, putting them where they belong, which is not currently with you. The abandonment of all of the historical negativity and mental states that have brought you to this current moment. 3, now that there's an open space, an empty space, now we fill the open space by cultivating mindful concentration. And finally, it's an ongoing process, it's an evolution, it's a practice because you try to preserve this strength which has begun to appear. So you restrain the senses, you abandon the negative mental states, you cultivate mindful, you practice, and then you continue the practice and the evolution. And there is open space available to you in that process. You have to vacate before you can fill. Natalie, can I go to another 12-step principle? Is this okay?
Yeah.
Yeah. I always think of you when I do this, but it's so similar. Is that you have to release your addiction to be able to find recovery. Surrender. You have to surrender, and the act is surrender. Mm-hmm. Admit powerlessness, and then practicing recovery. Not only finding recovery, but the preservation of that recovery. So you vacate space, you leave room in the spirits that you used to drink, and it opens a space for something very spiritual that comes to you in its place. But you have to vacate the space, you have to empty before you can fill. Does this make sense? It's so logical. Restraint, abandonment, cultivation, preservation. Such logical thinking. That's kind of what is so enjoyable to me about Buddhist thought.
That's the 4 steps of mindfulness meditation from the Satipatthana Sutta.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So if it hasn't arisen yet, don't tempt it. That's the first step.
Restraint of the senses.
If you know that you've got a drinking problem, that's what we're talking about, stay away from bars. Just don't go there. The second thing is, if you do go there and you've got a problem, that's the next one. They call that step
Abandonment.
abandonment. You have to do whatever it takes to abandon that. And having stopped it, then you cultivate.
And preserve.
And then from there, you maintain. They call it maintaining. It's the same thing, but whichever word appeals to you. So you're not so likely to be tempted the next time. And every time you practice not being tempted, it's less tempting.
Just change all your playmates and all your playgrounds. It's so simple.
Do what? I couldn't.
Change all your playmates and all your playgrounds. It's
You
just
may
that
have
simple.
to. You may have to. You may have to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You do. I have lots of treatment stories about people having to do that, and then they find recovery. I want to do one other thing about attitudes, and maybe I won't get to these quotes on right concentration. But these are 9 attitudes, and we could actually spend 9 weeks on these, Ruthie. As I did
Okay.
these, I'm just like, boy, maybe this could be
But you
another
could
series.
Shut me up. You should have done faster.
Oh, you always add to it.
I know. So,
9 attitudes in the work of becoming mindful, concentration, and the practice of meditation. 1, having a beginner's mind. The ability to say, I don't know.
you don't know.
2, non-judgmental, especially of yourself. Non-labeling of these things. 3rd, being active and accentuating positive action. 4th, letting go. 5th, trusting our inner nature. 6th, patience. This stuff doesn't come fast. It's not like you come here and you walk out and you're changed. This is an ongoing process, and it takes patience. Especially patience with yourself. If you have patience with yourself, it's easier to have patience with others if they're on their own journey as well. 7, non-striving, non-forcing. 8, gratitude. 9, generosity. Let me repeat those. These attitudes can lead you to this realm of concentration.
Where does this list come from? What is the?
Do you know where these 9 come from? I don't
think
have
maybe from John Kabat-Zinn. I don't know. He did several.
It could be.
talks
I
with
didn't write
9
down where I
things.
got this from.
He did 9 different things.
There's a site that I especially like. It called the Buddhist Mind.
Okay.
Where I get it. I can look it up for you, Natalie.
I was just
The
curious.
6 paramitas are a little different. They begin with generosity, and then go to ethics, and then go to patience, and then go to diligence, and then go to mindfulness, and end with wisdom. So it's the same thing. These are all the same things. What you're going to find in the paramitas or in the Eightfold Path, just given out in different ways.
Yeah, these
These
circle this way, and then they circle this way, and they
tradition.
circle this way, and it's just a big circle.
Yeah.
Do we have time for a few quotes? How are we doing?
After 11, yeah, 5 after.
5 after? Let me do a few of these quotes. Done by Marna Montessori about concentration, the lady who started the Montessori movement. Concentration is the key that opens us up to the latent treasures within.
Oh, that's lovely.
Concentration is the key that opens us up to the latent treasures within. Beautiful. In doing anything, the power of concentration, I can't read my writing here. Okay, we're gonna skip that one. The world is ready to give up its secrets if only we know how to knock. How to give it the necessary blow comes through concentration. There is no limit to the power of the human mind. The more concentrated it is, the more power it will be brought to bear on one point. That is the secret.
One point.
The world is ready. It sounds like our Rumi poem. The world is ready to give up its secrets if only we know how to knock. Just right in the same realm. True concentration is an unbroken thread of awareness. The formula for success is simple. Practice concentration, then more practice and more concentration. I find that when I am actually writing, I enter a zone of concentration too small to admit my troubles.
That's a good one.
This is from a writer. I find that when I'm actually writing, I enter a zone of concentration too small to admit my troubles. It's a nice thought. Last one. If we know the divine art of concentration, if we know the divine art of meditation, if we know the divine art of contemplation, easily and consciously we can unite the inner world with the outer world. Really like that one. That is through these practices. So I'm gonna end with a short little story about my friend Lawrence. Another music story. And interestingly, by the way, when you look on the websites about Buddhist concentration, it's almost always actors, musicians that are talking in their quotes. It's quite amazing because they have to lose themselves in their art form and become something that they are not. They have to shed those skins. Meryl Streep's a perfect example of this. But I'm going to end with this story about Lawrence. Lawrence is a friend of mine from Minnesota. He came down here once and sang a little bit at the Bamboo Room with me. And Lawrence and I knew one song when we started doing music together in common, and it was an instrumental called Black Orpheus. It is also called Mañana at the de Carnaval by Luis Mampa. And it's a Brazilian tune. And I had to practice it for 6 months in jazz lessons. Same song for 6 months straight. He said, "You're getting there. Do it again." And so, you do this. And Lawrence had that same experience with the song. So we did it. And he would come in and he would do some other songs. Sooner or later, in every night, in front of a public, we would do this song and we would be lost. I wasn't playing anymore. The bar wasn't there anymore. Crazy drunks giving me tip money didn't matter at all. They were gone. And Lawrence and I would close my eyes and I would play that song because I knew it so well. And every time it was another miracle. Sometimes it was 4 minutes long. Sometimes it was 8 minutes long. And interestingly, the bar would stop.
That's the beauty of jazz.
The bar would stop. And this was a noisy bar. When we did the song, every time all of a sudden it would be noisy, it'd be less noisy, it'd be less noisy. And all of a sudden everybody was there. That's what this is talking about. And what I said to Lawrence, I said, this is better than having sex.
Mm-hmm.
When you come and we do this song, I am just
out of body.
I am not here. I have gone somewhere else.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a very pleasant place. So thank you that you and I get a chance whenever the opportunity presents itself to go there. I think the more you practice this kind of mindfulness meditation and concentration, the more and more you can find that spot. It's available. It just takes a bunch of knocking on the door, which is the practice. Okay, I'm done.
Yay.
Should we do comments or should we do the loving kindness meditation?
Do comments.
Okay, comments about that.
Give me
Comments about this last section.
I had a lot of talking time.
Yeah.
Let's let somebody else have a chance.
Donna.
I find I can get lost when I do my Tai Chi.
Absolutely. Tai Chi is body meditation, if there ever was one.
Not in that room anymore. I don't
That's
hear
right.
the music playing. I can do something else.
And how is that for you?
Oh, that's great. It's like when I leave class, I feel like 1,000 times better. You know, it's just like you feel so peaceful and
Yeah. Cool. Nice. Happy for you.
Well, we have a new volunteer, Dominic, who has been very prominent in table tennis, ping pong.
Here he is right over here.
In Germany. And so he knows that feeling of if something grabs you, you lose it. But when you get into it and you go with it, it's just everything.
Yeah.
Like,
Is that right?
sport.
What's your experience of that?
So every time I go in a table tennis session, I totally lost every thought I had before. So I don't know, homework or any dishes at home or something like that. When I'm playing table tennis, I'm just doing that and nothing else in my thoughts in my head at this time.
And I'm assuming that environment creates the space to be incredibly successful at it.
Yep, they were biggies.
Yeah, awesome. Mindfulness. It's mindfulness. Anyone else comments, questions, thoughts?
Well, I discovered, realized some years ago with my years of scuba diving.
Yeah.
When you're underwater, when you're in a different environment that is not our normal environment, I realized that I spent most all the time in the now, which is important in that, when you're doing that hobby or that work, and it helped train me, I would say, in a way, to be realize how of blocking other things out and how I was able to achieve that, and I have been able to take that time with the scuba into my meditation and also in my everyday life, trying to be aware to be aware, remember to remember, and it just dawned on me at one point somewhere along the years that was something that probably I was meant to do that to give me that skill and that realization of one of those aha moments. And I would recommend scuba diving to anyone.
Sure.
It's a different world down there, and you do have to pay attention to what you're doing because you're in a foreign environment.
Mac, isn't this a form of like slipping into bliss? And isn't that a problem for divers actually? That when you get in that other dimension,
well,
that you can kind of go.
There's something like you call when you dive too deep, too long. It's called nitrogen narcosis, which is the rapture of the deep. And that's kind of like laughing gas. Nitrogen is more. It's like a nitrous oxide type of thing. I found moments of bliss when I would be in an environment where I was around beautiful marine life. If I was working in dirty water, pulling a chain, trying to free a chain from the mud, that was usually my moments of bliss. But it still took all my concentration. But underwater, in the tropics, I would say, more so, because of all the beautiful marine life and the warm water and the comfortable conditions gives you many opportunities for moments of bliss.
Matt was my teacher, my scuba teacher. That's how we
So you
met. In,
Oh.
we fell in love underwater.
Without other distractions.
But to add to that is with scuba diving, you hear your breath. So you're breathing in and you're breathing out. So you're very in tune with your breath. And with that,
I think that's why
also really adds to the experience.
It's meditative in those ways.
Absolutely. So,
it's sensory deprivation a little bit.
Yes.
And then you add to that the breathing and whatnot, and you are, I think, in a very powerful meditative state at that point.
Anyone else? Otherwise, we'll do a loving kindness meditation.
We still want to do one?
We do?
All right, everybody, shake, stretch. Whoa. Oh, get reseated so we can start loving. For those of you who are new here today, there are 5 parts to this. I'm going to name a person, 5 different ones, and then I'm going to say something to them, and then you're going to repeat after me to them. So, I didn't say that very well. Just follow along. We're going to start with ourselves, okay? Bring yourself to your own mind. Set aside other things, what we've been talking about. Just concentrate now on yourself. And say to yourself, may I be well. May no harm come to me. May I live with ease. That's equanimity. May I live with ease, calm and peaceful. May I be happy. Take a breath or two and bring to mind someone you love with all your heart. See them very clearly. Look into their eyes, smile to them, say their name, and say, may you be well. May no harm come to you. May you live with ease, calm and peaceful. May you be happy. And now we turn our attention to our neutral person, someone that you know, but you don't really know. You may not know their name. It might just be someone who waits on you a lot, or a neighbor that walks their dog same time you do, or something. If you don't know his or her name, address them as friend. Dear friend, may you be well. May no harm come to you. May you live with ease, calm and peaceful. May you be happy. And now we turn our attention to someone with whom we are in conflict. It can be a big conflict, a little conflict. It could have been a long time ago. It could have been just this morning. Bring that person to mind and taking a good deep breath and letting go of any sense of malice or tension. Say to that person, may you be well. May no harm come to you. May you live with ease, calm and peaceful. May you be happy. release your hands, put them over your heart, and bring to mind something that you really can't even embrace. It's so big. 8 billion people on this planet. Who knows how many more are out there somewhere? So we bring to our hearts a totally unconditional, everybody sense of loving kindness and friendship. And it goes a little differently. May all beings everywhere on this plane and all other planes be well. May all beings everywhere be safe. May all beings everywhere be free from suffering. May all beings everywhere be happy. And now we sit and release our hands. This is unconditional friendliness or loving kindness. And when we're ready, we open our eyes. We smile at our neighbors. And we're going to close with, I'm going to say a short sentence and you say it out loud this time. Okay, here we go. We're ready for our version of a benediction. Go in peace.
Go in peace.
Go making peace.
Go making peace.
Living gently.
Living gently.
Loving mightily.
Loving mightily.
And bowing to the mysteries.
Bowing to the mysteries.
Okay, Sharon, Dingus, thank you all. We'll see you again next week. Everybody got something to practice on.